Hey everybody, how's it going? Andrew here, and I just wanted to make a quick announcement to say that we are currently reaching out to you, our listeners, and other devs as well, to see if you'd be interested in being on the show for a new type of episodes we're going to be launching soon. So, what this new episode is basically we'll be doing mini kind of like one-on-one consultations where you can ask a question that you have about your marketing, and we will address it and provide guidance for it as part of the show. There will be several other devs with you for that format too, and then we'll also provide some commentary in addition to that. So that's going to be the format. I think it's a great opportunity for you guys to ask your questions and then also be featured on the show to share a little bit more about your project and what you're working on. So if this is something that is interesting for you and you'd love to be on the show, then head over to rengenmarketing.com dev interviews, and you can fill out the form with your question and we'll be getting back to you. Now, in case that there's a large influx of inquiries, please be patient as we give it time to get back to you. But again, that site is rengenmarketing.com/dev interviews, and sign up if you're interested in being on the show. All right, that's all I got for that. Thank you again for being such great listeners, and let's get back to the show. Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Indie Game Movement, the podcast that talks about the marketing and business of indie games. I'm Andrew Pappas. I'm going to be your host today along with Mustapha Price, and this is episode 257, where we're going to be talking about how indie devs can clarify their messaging. Now, when you start sharing your game with the world, everything you do from then on deals with messaging. Well, you may have a good idea on what your studio and game are. Sometimes how you convey that to others isn't in the most clear or concise way. That's why Mustapha and I are here to help discuss how important it is to clarify your messaging and some tips on ways you can do that. So when you start promoting your game, people have a clear idea on exactly what to expect from you. So that's what we're going to be talking about right here today on Indie Game Movement. Hey everybody, we're back, and I have Mustapha here with me today. Mustapha, how's it going, buddy?
Going well. Feels like it's been a while since I've been on one of these, so I'm excited to be back.
Yes, I think it has been some time. So, and of course, I'm happy to have you here too, because we have a pretty interesting topic that we'd love to talk about today. But before we get into that, let's catch up with you, man, because last time you talked, you had a lot of different things going on. So, how has that been going? How's life been treating you? Give us the down low on everything.
Yeah. Still a whole lot of things going on, which, that's always a good thing. For my team, we kind of recently introduced a major new mechanic into our games, so it has been nonstop design work, balancing, drafting things up and tweaking old things. So we're in an exciting position. We think this will kind of give an added hook to the game that we're working on, but it has certainly been a time sink, so making games is hard, as it were.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, that's cool. I mean, it sounds like you guys are making a lot of progress and stuff, and just plugging right along. That's great.
Yeah, it's super exciting. How about you? What's been new?
Not too much. It's just crazy summer, especially August. A lot of projects that are getting like fully ramped and everything. And also just apparently August is also the time that my family decided to do just lots of vacations. Nothing huge or extravagant, but like it seems like every weekend there's something going on. There's birthdays, there's people going back to school. It's just because I don't know if I've mentioned, but my wife's a teacher. She goes back to school. The kids go back to school. Everybody goes back to school.
Yeah.
I mean, that time of the year. So it's just a bit of hectic craziness and everything else. But otherwise, it's been good. So yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell, I guess, for what's been happening recently. So, in addition to that, though, I'm curious, what games have you been playing?
What games have I been playing? So, I've been back to basics lately, and I have been playing an absolute ton of
A ton of Tetris?
Tetris. So I got Tetris Effect, which
Ooh.
was visual, like music themed version of it. I got back into Tetris 99, which is like the battle royale version on the Switch, and then I've been playing Puyo Puyo Tetris, which is also on the Switch. So a whole lot of Tetris in my life lately.
Oh
It's
my!
super easy to play in short bursts, and I don't have to worry about like coming off the heels of like I had played all the Yakuza games this year, and those are like dozens and dozens of hours, so it was nice to have something I can just kind of sit down with, play, and then get back to work kind of thing.
Nice. And real quick, for whatever reason, I think the audio cut out, but the first Tetris you mentioned with the music and such, that was Effect, correct?
Yes,
Oh,
Tetris Effect.
okay.
Mhm.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to just clearly state that because it sounded like we cut out there for a minute. But man, that's awesome. Like so much Tetris. I remember seeing Tetris Effect for the first time and was like, wow, I could get back into this game again. Not to say
Yeah,
Tetris is a bad game or anything. Just you're once you know it and you've played it for so long, even as a kid, it's like, yeah, it's the same thing. So, but
oh yeah,
not with
no, I
Effect.
totally get that. But Tetris Effect is definitely a new take, well worth anyone's time for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, that's one I'll have to get into some point. But anyways, on my front, yeah, still not much has changed. I'm still like, and actually lately I haven't been like playing anything at all. But top of my list primarily is Final Fantasy 1. It's what is it? I think I'm about halfway through based off of what the average playthrough is for the full game, which I think is like 20 hours, which I find so hard to believe for an old NES game like that. But
Yeah.
that's pretty cool though that there's that much playtime. So, anyways, I'm about halfway through. I need to plug through that because, as I've mentioned before here on the show, it's now my official challenge and potentially like, I guess, bucket list item. I'm giving myself, I think, more than enough time, I hope, but to play through all the Final Fantasies. So, yeah, I just need to commit myself and start playing one again so I can move on because as much as I'm enjoying one, I'm ready to move on. And from what some of my friends are telling me, they're like, why are you doing that to yourself? All of them up to 5 suck. Like, I'm like, nope. I'm gonna do it. So don't
Well,
rain on
depending
my
on how
parade.
long it takes you, they're like remastering the original 6, I think, for mobile and Steam.
So and that's part of my thing too. I'm trying to make sure or find ways, and I'm playing the originals.
Mhm.
At least, I mean, I don't know if I'll play remasters later, but I'm playing at least. I'm trying to play the games as I grew up with them.
Okay.
I think
I
for the
see.
best representation of like, because yeah, that's basically my objective there. Because I've thought that, for example, with one, and I'll cheat a little bit, and this is what I mean by cheating. I'll use the internet to find out what the heck spells are, because I have no clue half the time. What does lit mean, right? I mean, you can figure
Yeah.
it out, but what does it could mean something completely different. In some cases, that is the case. And then on top of it all, you find out like, oh yeah, that game was released with a bug for that spell, and it doesn't even work. And it's
Mm.
like, I did a grind for all this skill, all this time, just so I could get a spell that does not work.
Mhm.
And you have limited spell slots too. So, anyways, that's what I'm doing. I need to make some time, maybe this weekend. Probably not, because again, it's another busy weekend. But whatever. Here we are. All right. Enough about what we're playing, and more about what we are talking about today. And that is, as we mentioned earlier, how indie devs can clarify their messaging. So, Mustafa, how are we going to kick off this conversation today?
Yeah, well, I would say, it's really about assessing the value of what we're discussing first and foremost, right?
Hmm.
So messaging is something that is going to be pervasive throughout the entire process of discussing your game with the world at large. That could be even before your marketing campaign. That could be from the time you start having conversations with other people in the space. So, ensuring that you have a good grasp on what your studio represents and your game, uh, it's important to learn how to convey that in a way that feels consistent and clear across the board. Um, so we're kind of hoping to discuss ways in which you can promote your game that are going to be, again, clear and consistent. So again, with assessing that value, I guess if I didn't go over it, in depth enough, uh, why would we say it's important to review and clarify your messaging with everything that you do?
Yeah, no, it's a really really great and important thing to discuss in terms of why. Like, why is that, right? So there's a few reasons that I would think on my end. Um, like short and sweet answer to that is like people just need to know what your intentions are. And that could go in a lot of different directions, right? So one way I see this is just who are these people? So at face value, or in general, we tend to think, oh, they're our players. They need to know what we're making and things like that, right? And but especially when it comes down to like branding and what you represent as a brand and things like that. That's really important because if they have a clear idea on what you do and what you represent, and we'll get into that a little bit more in a moment, that can really have an impact on them. But in other areas too, such as like if you are going to working with a publisher, if they have a clear idea on what those things are, because so overall, just making sure that people know what your intentions are, what you represent, things like that. It's gonna really help them kind of align with whether or not you're a company or you have a product that they're gonna want to be interested in. So that's really what I think it would come down to is why is it clear? It's because if you're not clear with everything that you're doing from a messaging perspective, it can cause confusion. It can cause people not to take action or do the things that you ultimately want them to do. And the reason why this is so important to say, because some people might be out there thinking, oh, my messaging is clear, but is it? And that's part of what we're going to like be discussing about today, because making sure that it is clear and not just thinking that you think it's clear is very imperative, because there can be a stark contrast. And if you don't know that, it can be really scary.
Yeah, no, that's excellently put. And just to kind of, I would say, expand on that. When we had Chevy from Happy Ray Games, the devs of Eichenfeld on the show back in I think February,
Mm-hmm.
um, there was a lot of discussion around just the sheer volume of communication channels that are active throughout the development process, and it's easy to think that like brand messaging is exclusive to how you engage with your audience or your player base, but it really expands so much further than that. I mean, you have to represent your studio again if you're having conversations with publishers, if you're hiring contractors to work with you, if you are onboarding community management staff, if you're, even beyond that, I would say when you're publishing the game, even if you're doing that independently, the parties that you work with for having the games on specific platforms, knowing which collaborators are going to align with what you want, making sure that applicants to your team or people who are aiming to assist you know what you're about, so that way you can ensure you're only bringing on people who align with those values and that messaging. Like it is such a webbed network that you're going to be exchanging with at any given time, that it is crucial to have an understanding of what your position is in that tapestry.
Yeah, you said that like perfectly, and I'm glad you said that, because when we were putting this topic together, in some of the main points that I was putting in there, I completely was just super